Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Funnel Trade. I have yet another great question, this time from patron Jonathan, and he asks, could Spider-Man collector boxes retrace similar to Innistrad Remastered? Basically, the one card prop theory. Markov meets Soulstone. The actual cards in Innistrad Remastered, outside of Edgar, were met with meh, just like Spider-Man vibes thus far. Spider-Man may never retrace down to sub 300 like Innistrad did, but does it drop in similar percentages off its highs and settle in at say $400 for a 6 month projection? And of course, what I would say is, of course it could, right? Here in TCG investing land, we are downstream of the real productive economy. We're downstream of the stock market. We're downstream of collectibles markets. We're downstream of the magic market. And when we're talking about Spider Man, we are way, 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 way down in the weeds on a specific product that is going to go into a very unique part of its life cycle where it releases. Suddenly, everybody is destroying those collector boxes as fast as they can. And in the first couple of months after release, a great majority of the boxes that would ever exist get destroyed. And so, yes, it is possible. Maybe the jobs data continue to come in weak, maybe inflation continues to run hot, and maybe the market rolls over into a recession sometime in the next 3 months. The stock market takes a big dump, and so the TCG market we would expect to take a dump too. So yes, it could happen. Okay. So there's a couple other things that I've been wanting to talk about, and this question dovetails in with them really well. So, yesterday, the Federal Reserve decided to drop the prime rate by a quarter point in the US. And everybody kind of holds their breath waiting for the news. What will they vote to do? Will it be a quarter point drop or half point drop? And what does the dot plot look like for the rest of the year? The dot plot is where they go and I'm not sure, do they survey the Fed board governors or do they just parse their uh, what they say in speeches to try to determine? But basically, they try to gauge, what does each of these voting members think should happen over the rest of the year? And they put that on a histogram. And then they're able to say, okay, well, it looks like the most likely thing is that we get another half point cut by the end of the year or whatever they come up with. So, everybody's trying to read the tea leaves and all this stuff. But the reality is you get the quarter point cut and you should expect on the long timeline for asset prices to increase because it'll create additional liquidity in the market because loans get cheaper. Businesses will find that certain marginal activities that were not profitable previously are now profitable and worth doing. And so you'll get more business going on, you'll get more stock trading, you'll get prices being bid up, you'll get more loans going out, which through fractional reserve banking makes more money in the economy and all that stuff. And all that takes time. Okay. And so yeah, it's interesting to, want to go refresh the news yesterday and see, hey, was it a quarter point or a half point? But in the long run, it does not matter. And that's kind of similar to what happened with Innistrad Remastered. Yeah, Innistrad Remastered came out. It was 340-ish right when it came out. And then the price started to fall, and then WotC started to heavily dump the collector boxes on Amazon, and the price fell more. That is one place where we will not see the same behavior. Um, WotC has been very, very cautious about dumping universes beyond collector boxes on Amazon. I'm not going to say they've never sold them on Amazon, but as far as dumping them, it's not something we've typically seen. For a long time, WotC was selling Assassin's Creed collector boxes on Amazon, but they were always quite a bit above market price. So they may put them up there because they can get much better profit margins selling directly to the end user over Amazon than they can pushing them out through their distributor network. But I don't think we're going to see them undercutting everyone else the way they did Innistrad Remastered collector boxes on Amazon. So there is that slight difference. Now, another thing I want to talk about here is kind of the same short-term noise thing like we discussed with the rate change, the Fed rate change, that you get that short-term noise, but in the long run, the effect is much more mild and takes a lot more time. And that is Every single Magic expansion, every single Magic product within every expansion is always derided as too weak, too strong, totally ridiculous and unusable, format warping, too rare, too common, too expensive, too cheap. Every single complaint you can have, and the opposite of every single complaint you can have, you will hear about every single Magic product and expansion ever. And that's just the nature of the internet. The internet, aside from you, is not a monolith, right? So you can go on the internet and you can find every opinion. And so you will find opinions that Spider-Man is just a meh ho hum set and, there's no great cards in it and it's just going to be awful. You'll also find some people saying, hey, it's going to be a great set, it's going to sell well, everything else. In the long run, none of those opinions matter. And again, we can look at Innistrad Remastered, that it went down from 340 for the collector boxes pre-release back in January. It fell. Watsy dumped it on Amazon all the way down. Watsy was selling them at 240 or 244. I forget which one. And I'm not sure that TCG player prices ever got below that. I think they kind of scraped close to it, but I'm not sure they ever went below that. And where are the prices today? 290, 295. Why? Because these are scarce collectibles that people destroy for fun. So let's say you exactly predicted what Innistrad Remastered eventually did. Let's say in January you predicted, hey, this is going to fall from 340 to 250 market and 240 dump price on Amazon. Let's say you exactly predicted it and you bought a bunch from Watsy over Amazon at 240 and today you're up to 290. Okay, great. And let's say you did not predict any of that. You bought at 340, you bought at the high, and then it came out and the price started to slide, and you averaged down over the next couple of months. And today you have some average price close to 280, 290, 300, and the price today is 290. Okay. Now, what about 3 years from now? 3 years from now, it could be $1,000 box. Would either of those scenarios upset you? Would you be upset if your average basis price was 240 or it was 290 3 years from now if it turns into $1,000 box? You wouldn't care because all of that price action after it coming out is just short-term noise. And yeah, it's fun to watch the Federal Reserve release its decision on the rate cut. It's fun to, look at what the kind of vibes towards a new release are, and it's fun to watch Spider-Man collector boxes over this last week go on a roller coaster, trending downwards, but occasionally spiking back up and then resuming the downward trend. All of that's fun, but in the long run, it doesn't really matter. And since I started Final Trade in 2021, my compound annual return on invested capital in Final Trade is 70%. And so it doesn't really matter if I had bought box XYZ at $95 or $100 or 105 or 110 or 115. It really doesn't matter. That's kind of the short-term stuff. And it feels good to save a couple dollars. It feels good to look back at the price history and say, oh, yeah, I bought there where it was, closer to the bottom than the top. That feels good. But in the long run, it doesn't really matter. And so, yeah, we can say, maybe we'll see some parallels between Spider Man collector boxes and Innistrad Remastered, but don't get too wrapped up in that kind of stuff. And I guess another really good example of this was, back it's where I kind of learned this lesson. It was back in the late 2010s when Tesla was trying to get the Model 3 in serial production and they were having unbelievable financial problems at the company, and for a long time they were flirting with bankruptcy, and Elon Musk would make a tweet promising some amazing new thing that still hasn't happened, but he would make a tweet and then the stock price would jump 10%. And I would sit there and I would be baffled and I would think, 10 years from now, will Tesla stock be 10% more valuable because Elon said he had a sandwich for lunch? Or Elon said he took an extra big dump, or Elon said he slept in the office, or whatever nonsense that's completely unrelated to the financial performance of the company, and especially the long term financial performance. And I would really scratch my head contemplating that problem. And finally, I just decided, well, I guess it's because the majority of market participants are short term thinkers and they're trading in and out of positions. They're not patient, they're not the long term people. And so to them, those kind of things can be important. Those kind of things that they think, oh, well, how do I think everyone else will trade today based on what type of sandwich it was? And I decided that's not really the kind of trading and investment that I'm interested in. I'm interested in trying to think of the big ideas, the big things that will hold up over the long timelines, put money into those, and then not worry about things. Go about my life, enjoy things day to day, not try to time everything with a stopwatch. And so be sure you're not getting too caught up in all of that short term noise that fundamentally doesn't matter. And I do recall about a year ago, a specific time I warned people not to get caught up, and that was when Jeweled Lotus got banned and what, Dockside Extortionist and a couple other cards at the same time all got banned by the Commander Committee. And I reminded everybody that it was all short term noise. And in 6 months, nobody would even remember. And I bet until I mentioned it again here, you hadn't thought about those bans in a long time because they didn't matter. But in the week that they happened, they were what everyone was talking about. And maybe you could have made some trades based on it, but odds are they would not have been good, profitable trades because ultimately everybody stopped caring. And there will come a time when Jeweled Lotus is unbanned, and for a brief, frantic period of time, yes, it is the hot thing again, and so money will be made, but it will be very difficult to make that money, and the odds of you making it or me making it are very low. And so just keep in mind that all of these exact predictions of, hey, these kind of things are parallel and these kind of things might happen the same way. What do you think? Well, okay, it's fun to talk about and it's interesting and it's good to try to recognize patterns and all of those things. But ultimately, we shouldn't make too many decisions based around those kind of analyses because in the long run, they don't really matter whether you're sitting on a basis price of Innistrad Remastered collector boxes at 240 or 290. Today, you probably don't actually really care because you're not interested in selling today anyway. And when you are interested 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road and it's a $1,000 or maybe $1,500 or $2,000 box, you won't care then. So just keep all that in mind that the important stuff in markets often takes a long time to have its effect on the market. The things like the rate cut. The rate cut is going to play out, the important part of the rate cut is going to play out over the next 3 or 6 or 9 months, and it's going to play out in concert, probably with additional rate cuts before the end of this calendar year. And all the people who wanted to swoop in and try to suddenly trade really fast because they were watching CNBC live stream as soon as Jay Powell took the podium and started talking yesterday. Yeah, maybe you made a couple dollars, but man, that's a risky way to try to do things. And it's just stressful and you got to devote a lot more time to it than most people want to. So that's why I'm always an advocate of ignore the short term noise, focus on the long term theses, focus on the things that you think will hold up and stand the test of time. And in the future, you won't really even remember all of those short term things. So yeah, Spider-Man boxes, they've already come down from what? They peaked around 950 or something, and they're at like 670 today. Could they fall more? Yep, of course they could. Sure. They can fall 600. They can fall 500. I'd be surprised if they went below 500, but I also didn't expect them to fall much below 800. And here we are at 670. So I'm not worried. I know that in the long run, when I sell my boxes years from now, they will have appreciated so much that I won't worry if my average cost is 600 or my average cost is 700. It won't make a difference. So let me know what you think, guys. Patrons, please keep the great questions coming, and I'm really enjoying answering them. This one was great because Jonathan's question rolled in nicely with a couple other things that I just wanted to talk about in the last couple of days, and then I was inspired to actually turn on the camera, start recording, and film it. Let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade. Bye, hat.